Thank you. Welcome everybody to the June 17th, 2021 meeting of the High Point City Council Finance Committee. This is Councilman Britt Moore here at City Hall along with Councilman Victor Jones. I'm going to call the roll on our other two members. I think we do have Michael Holmes. You're connected. Is that correct?
I am here, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilman Holmes. Councilwoman Peters, are you with us? Okay, she's not with us at this time, but we do have a quorum, and hopefully she'll be able to join us. But we will jump right into our agenda for today. And I'll say prior to that, it's very nice to sit at the dais without the plexiglass barriers all around us. So glad that piece of the puzzle's gone. First item today is 2021-228. It's consideration of resolution for Guilford Works lease agreement. Our presenter on this item is Eric Olmedo, Assistant City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, this is a 5-year lease of a city property at 607 Idle Street that is used for the lease is with the city of Greensboro, but the property is used for Guilford Works, which is formerly Guilford County Workforce Development Board. They've had their job link site at that facility for about 10 years. We had a 10-year lease with them previously that expired in January or December, and they've been on a month-to-month lease since then. They would like to re-enter into a five-year agreement, and the term of that agreement over the 5 years would be $551,366. There are some upfits, some other renovations that they would like to do to that facility. We've been working with them with our facilities group to make those happen, but that is not included in that in this lease. We've had some delays with that, so we will bring that back to you in the new fiscal year. But we wanted to get this in place for the new fiscal year, July 1.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Almeida. Is there any comments or questions on this item? Hearing none, I'll make the motion to approve item 2021-228. Is there a second? Seconded by
Second.
Council. Okay, we'll give this one to Councilman Jones for the second. I'll call the roll. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
And Councilman Moore's an aye, so that item passes. Next item is 2021-229. This is a contract concerning our SRO, school resource officers in the Guilford County Board of Education, and our presenter is Chief Travis Stroud. Are you with us?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, let us know what you got.
This is a request to approve our school resource officer contract with GCS. We renew this contract annually, but this year is a little bit different. We have updated some of the numbers in the contract. This is a new contract proposal. We have been operating under the old contract since I'm estimating, don't hold me to this date, since 2012. So we haven't made any monetary adjustments for many years. This is an 11-month contract that runs from August 1st through June 30th each year. Now, there's some changes to this contract from the ones in the past. We have added the SRO supervisor to the contract. We provide a supervisor at the level of lieutenant to work strictly with our school resource officers, and we provide 8 school resource officers for high schools and middle schools in the city. Also, some changes in the contract. We've updated the training cost, the vehicle maintenance cost, and the vehicle replacement cost. So in total, the total bill will be $699,463.38, and that is up from what we've been charging in the past of $532,240. It's plus $167,223.38. So a significant increase in the contract. But this is probably long overdue.
Any comments or questions? I'll just say thank you, Chief, for the work, for the SRO's work. Do you know, with all we've been through the last 18 months, are the schools set to open fully and and in quotations, normally this coming August?
Yes, sir. As far as I know, they are. Right now, we're in summer school with them, so we're going to class just like normal. So I presume come August, it'll be the same thing. We're ready to roll until I hear differently.
Okay, very good. And just for clarity, this money will be reimbursed to the city through the Guilford County Board of Education.
Yes, sir. I think that we bill them twice a year for that total amount.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Then I'll make a motion to approve item 2021-229. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Holmes. I'll call the roll. I'm going to check to make sure Councilwoman Peters has not joined us yet. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Aye. And Councilman Moore is an aye. That item passes. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Next item is 2021-230. This involves a contract with Allied Universal Incorporated Security Guard Service. Presenting this item is Tyler Barrier.
Good afternoon, Finance Committee. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yeah, so this contract is actually a renewal through Allied Universal. This bid was done back in 2019. The initial bid did not go over the $90,000 threshold, but after a renewal and I believe it's a 3 or 5% increase requested by the vendor and awarded by the contract, the initial amount went over 90 and now is at the amount you see. This service is for security services for after hour and holiday and overnight patrol at the MOC Municipal Operations Center located on Green Street. This is done through the electric department, but it also benefits the warehouse, safety and health, water, sewer, streets, and stormwater departments. So it's just our security guard services for that facility located at 816 East Crane.
Any comments or questions for Mr. Barrier? Well, thank you, sir. Just happy that it stayed in the 3 to 5% range with the way inflation seems to be running in some sectors of the economy. If there is no further questions or comments, I'll make a motion to approve item 2021-230. There's a second by Councilman Jones. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? And Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. Next item, 2021-231, has to do with Phase 1 renovation of our City Lake Park and the Samet Construction Group. Lee Tillery, no? Greg. Well, okay. Well, they misspelled your name, Greg. So you take it, Greg.
All right, we'll run through this. There's a lot of information that was provided in the packet, but I want to focus on the first 3 pages and then the last page in the packet. So as a background, there was a project approved in the 2019 bond package that was that authorized $9.5 million of funds to be appropriated toward the City Lake Park project. We knew at the time that was presented that would not be the full budget for that project, but it was a portion of the project cost. As you also recall, Samet Builders was brought on by the city early this year as the CM at risk, or construction manager at risk. The city council agreed to an early package of improvements at $6.3 million in order to meet the Memorial Day 2022 projected opening of the swimming pool. And so a lot of work has been done, or at least initiated at the park to demo certain areas of the pool to get part of the structure ready, remove asbestos, and pre-plan for construction. We have been working with Samet for several months now to identify the total cost, which is called the GMP, Guaranteed Maximum Price, and get those components bid out by Samet. So Samet actually hard bids these various components. You go into the project kind of knowing what your outcome's going to be, and it locks you in for materials and construction labor. We have had to remove two key components from the project that you saw earlier this year that were presented, and those are larger ticket items. One's a pedestrian bridge, and the other is the greenway construction that is associated with the pedestrian bridge. We will be seeking opportunities to find a way to bring those alternates back if we can before the project ends. We may not be able to do that, but I'm going to talk about a couple of those strategies later as we move through this. If you'll see in the cover memo, the funding is 9.5 in previously approved bonds, and then 5.3 million in 2/3 general obligation bonds that we're able to issue. And then up to, and those are key words, up to $8.3 million in our interfund loan from the landfill post-closure fund. We will not need those funds in the near future, but we have to set them aside. And so this is a method of internally financing this project, paying that fund back over a number of years. But if we can reduce the amount that we have to borrow from the fund, and I'm going to describe a way to do that, or hopefully do that here in a moment, then we're not really borrowing that much from ourselves. So the Samet GMP is $19.8 million, almost 19.9. Outside of that contract scope, the city has a 4% contingency that is built into our total cost, and that's about $800,000, a little bit under 800. That is for anything unexpected that we find from this 1930s structure. So we feel comfortable with that 4% because we've gotten so far into the process with the bids, hard bidding. Pages 2 and 3, attachment A1, that kind of shows you the 6.3 million that's already been appropriated, and then the 13.5 that we're talking about in addition to that makes up the total GMP. And then I want to direct your attention to the very last page, and this is kind of a helpful summary, and it shows what is within the project scope of the Samet contract, and then what's being delivered outside the scope of the Samet contract. And there's a number of things that the city is either self-performing or is contracting separately with vendors to provide. And part of that is for cost savings, and part of it is also for construction coordinations as we get toward the end of the project. So you'll see there's about $2 million worth of outside services. There's the architect's contract, some asbestos removal, and other things that are detailed there. So it gives you a real idea of the architect, asbestos costs that we contracted, and then how the Samet costs come together. You'll see at the bottom the total figure for the project. I'm going to transition quickly over into what we're doing to also bring dollars to the table. We have 3 different grant funds that are being pursued right now: PARTF, the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and the Land and Water Conservation Fund on a separate cycle. All 3 of those are up to $500,000. So Lee has already submitted for 1 and plans to submit for 2 more. The other item that we are pursuing is that we're pursuing sponsorships for space and amenities. We have a conversation that's currently ongoing about one of the amenities. We have some planned conversations for space sponsorships. So when we have those, we'll bring those back for approval. Lastly, just a quick report. The local participation for the Samet contract is a good, strong 67%. We want to report that. And then the total MWBE participation is at 24%, and it's $4.66 million. So good, strong.
Would you repeat those 3 things once again, please?
Sure. The local participation for the overall Samet contract is 67%. And then the total MWBE is at 24%, which is $4.66 million. So good local surge in the local economy here, and then also with our MWBE.
I'm very happy to hear that. Thank you for that report, Greg, and for those listening. That's the City Lake Park. If you haven't been down there, or if you're from here like I am, the history of that park in the southeast U.S. is very significant. It's been a gem for High Point for a long time, and it was passed pretty favorably in the bond package in the vote. So I'm looking forward to the work and its completion, and I think from what I'm seeing, you're doing a great job and trying to meet deadlines, get it done, and keep the cost as reasonable as you can. So thank you for your work on that large project. Any comments or questions for Manager Ferguson on that? Hearing none, I'll make the motion to approve 2021-231. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by, I'm going to give this one to Councilman Holmvik. He's long distance. All right. And I'll call the vote. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Aye. And Councilman Moore is an aye. Thank you. The next item follows in with that. It's 2021-245, and it's an ordinance, City Lake Park renovation Phase 1. Am I going back? Where am I going now? I've got Lee listed on every one, and Lee ain't going to participate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be handling this item, and good afternoon to you and the members of the Finance Committee. This is a capital project ordinance that accompanies the previous item that was just moved forward to full council, and it appropriates the additional $13.6 million for the City Lake Park renovation. As Mr. Ferguson alluded to, $9.5 million in the 2019 voter-approved bonds have been previously appropriated. This proposed capital project ordinance appropriates the remaining funds, $5.3 million in two-thirds general obligation bonds, and up to $8,352,748 in an interfund loan from the landfill post-closure fund. I'll note the budget impact. The debt service payments for the general obligation bonds will be paid out of the city's general debt service fund, and the payback for the interfund loan will be appropriated in future budget years once we know what that final number is. Financial Services Department recommends approval and asks Finance Committee to also approve the item.
Further comments or questions? I'll second that. Councilman Holmes, there was a motion by Councilman Jones to approve, and I went ahead and seconded it. So I'll call the vote. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Aye. Councilman Moore is an aye. Thank you. Look, Lee's name's not on the next one. Next item, 2021-233, ordinance for a demolition of structure at 304 West Russell Avenue. Mr. Reggie Hucks, are you on with us?
I believe Mr. Ferguson has stepped out to see Reggie's.
Greg's taking this one too? Well, Greg, next time you just come to the meeting, everybody else can stay wherever.
Well, I'm not going to do as fine a job as Reggie would do, but I'll tell you the basics of it.
Okay.
This is a demolition of 304 West Russell Avenue, and to summarize this and several of the next one on the council's agenda or the committee's agenda, these have been under communication with the inspections department now for about a year and a half. So none of these are problems that have occurred yesterday or that are new in scope. So the inspections department has been working diligently to try to resolve them. They are not resolved, and so they're now coming to the Finance Committee for approval for the next step. So just wanted to put that in the context that these are not relatively new commercial issues. I'll try to answer any questions about that particular one, but
I think it's pretty straightforward. Is there any comments or questions for Greg on this item? Hearing none, I'll make a motion that item 2021-233 be approved. There's a second by Councilman Jones. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Aye. And Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. Another ordinance for demolition is item 2021-234. This is concerning a structure at 2138 Surratt Drive.
all right, similar situation, and we'll see if Reggie can join us here or not, but we may be done with it before he gets on. Commercial, there we go. Reggie's on now. Reggie, we're on 304 West Russell Avenue, or I'm sorry, 2138 Surratt Drive, if you want to give some overview.
Okay, 2138 Surratt Drive is the demolition for a metal building that is locally owned. we worked with the owners for about a year and a half trying to get them to tear the building down, suffering from stopped up roof drains and it buckled the building, but the owners stopped responding, and we got a preliminary estimate to demolish the building at $16,000. So that's so at this point we got to take it to council, get some action, because apparently the owner's just going to leave it standing.
All right.
As you can see in the pictures, it's in dire condition, and somebody could get hurt in the wrong conditions, obviously. Any comments or questions for Mr. Hux or Greg on this item? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve item 2021-234. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by, second by Councilman Holmes. I'll call the roll. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Aye. And Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. Thank you. Next item is 2021-235. This is an authorization to write off delinquent utility accounts receivable. Bobby Fitzjohn is here to present, and this is something that we do pretty much annually, and I think he'll explain how that works.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, members of the Finance Committee. As the Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, this is an item we bring to you every year. It allows us to write off the delinquent utilities accounts receivable from 3 years prior. So in this case, it's the 2016-2017 fiscal year. As a reminder, if this is the first time you've seen this, we write it off of our books, essentially, but we never stop trying to collect it. And to date, and I'm not sure the exact date this was updated, but we've collected nearly 4.6 million previously delinquent utilities bills based out of the North Carolina Debt Set-Off Program. So that's through your tax returns. If you're delinquent, we can set it off to the debt set-off, and we'll receive that money if you are due a tax refund. The utilities customer service group does a great job of collecting, and they typically hit about 99.5% of collections during the year, but there are always some that get added to this list. So we do have a listing behind it of just the history of write-offs over time, and but again, just something you see every year. It just allows us to take it off the books, and we'll still continue to try to collect.
Thank you, Bobby. I think that is a very commendable. We're very fortunate to have the staff doing what they do. 99.5% is, I'm sure, better than average. So, thank you. Any comments or questions? Then I'll make a motion to approve item 2021-235. This is seconded by Councilman Jones. I'll call the vote. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Aye. Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. Follow-up to that is 2021-236. Bobby Fitzjohn will explain the write-off of delinquent miscellaneous accounts receivables.
Yes, sir. So same explanation for the last item. This just is a lot smaller and varies from year to year. So we have $4,299 of delinquent landfill fees and $367 for return check fees that we would like authorization to write off.
Any comments or questions? Then I'll make a motion item 2021-236 be approved.
Second.
Second by Councilman Holmes. I'll call the vote. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? And Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. Item 2021-237 is a budget and capital project ordinance for the year-end technical adjustments. Bobby? Oh, they switched on me.
Good afternoon again. This item is amendments to the budget and capital project ordinances. These are year-end technical adjustment appropriations, and they are being requested for the city's general fund, transit grants fund, transit capital fund, and the landfill development and post-closure fund. The general fund requires an appropriation of $1.2 million in lease proceeds, And this will allow us to properly record the lease for some network storage server equipment that was previously approved by City Council back last July. The debt service payments for the purchase of this equipment have already been budgeted. For the transit grants and transit capital, each year any funds for grant budgets or capital budgets automatically roll forward, and that's allowed by the annual adopted budget ordinance that you all approved during the budget. Several transit grant amounts and transit capital amounts were inadvertently left off that budget roll, and so this is technically reappropriating these funds so we can enroll them forward. Again, they have already been appropriated. We're just reappropriating them because they missed that budget roll. The transit grant totals about $380,000, and the transit capital amount totals $458,000. And those are both federal grant revenues, no local dollars there. And then lastly, for the landfill development and post-closure fund, a transfer of $1,221,000 was not included in last year's adopted budget ordinance. This is to fund some capital projects in the landfill capital fund. Those projects were budgeted for and were included in that ordinance. This is just the funding source for that and will allow a year-end cash transfer to be made to properly fund for those projects. There's no budget impact to any of these items. The expenditures and revenue spending have been previously approved. There's technical adjustments to allow us to properly account for all these items. Financial Services Department recommends approval and asks City Council to approve the amendments, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? I'll second that. There's a motion by Councilman Jones and a second by Councilman Moore. I'll call the vote. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Aye. Councilman Moore's an aye. That motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell them to put your name on the list next time. Next item is 2021-238. It's a change order number 07 for Breese Enterprises Water Sewer Emergency Repairs. Is Derek Boone on the line?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm filling in today for Trevor Spencer with Engineering Services. So the city annually awards a contract for on-call water sewer utility repairs to assist the Water Sewer Mains Division. And this contract is funded by the Public Services Department and it is administered by the Engineering Services Department. A contract was awarded to Breese Enterprises for $650,725 by council on June 15th, 2020. The funds were previously exhausted in the January-February time period due to staffing shortages and a high volume of emergency repair needs. So change order number 4 was approved by council on February 15th, 2021 for an additional $500,000, which increased the contract amount to $1,150,725. The Public Services and Engineering Services Department are requesting an additional change order be approved for the amount of $500,000 to cover costs for emergency repairs occurring through the end of the current fiscal year. So we're requesting an additional $500,000, and that number is estimated based on the monthly pay requests. And so we feel this is the amount we feel like we're going to need to get to the end of the budget year.
Okay.
The main reason for this is staffing shortages. Our two main divisions that are involved are water sewer mains and street maintenance. And right now, their work crews are down about 40 to 50%. And so street maintenance traditionally helped come behind our contractor and has done utility cut repairs. And so they're not able, with the staffing shortages, the contractor is now doing those utility cut repairs. And so, the cost has increased of our projects. And so we are recommending that council approve the change order for $500,000 to increase the contract amount for Breese Enterprises to the amount of $1,650,725.
Any comments or questions? Derek, I thank you for re-emphasizing and explaining the staff part of that presentation. It's certainly affecting city operations as well as I know the private sector as well. That's something that would be newsworthy in my opinion. I'll make a motion that item 2021-238 be approved.
Second.
Second by Councilman Holmes. I will call vote. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. Thank you. Item 2021-239, we are requesting about Leo Terra Skeet Club LLC and a Amada sewer outfall. Terry Hauk.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This is for the Amada Sewer outfall reimbursement to Laterra Skeet Club LLC. The purpose is to reimburse Leo Skeet Club LLC for costs incurred to construct sanitary sewer outfall to serve parcel 16994. In order to get sanitary service to the property adjacent to the Amada site located at 3789 Amada Drive, the sanitary sewer outfall had to be constructed across Amada site. The Laterra Skeet Club LLC installed 1,050 linear feet of 8-inch sanitary sewer outfall to suit future water use springs to subdivision. Public Service Request recommends that the City Council approve the reimbursement for $110,362 to Lenore Skeet Club LLC. You'll see we have attachment with a site map and the request for reimbursement and supporting documentation. The original estimate was going to be less than $90,000, so it wasn't brought to council before. And so right now, that's why we're bringing it to council. Any questions?
Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve item 2021-239. Seconded by Councilman Jones. I'll call the vote. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Aye. Councilman Moore is an aye. Next item is 2021-240, concerning a contract with Brushy Mountain Builders about the Riverdale Lift Station odor control improvements. Terry's still on the line.
Yes. This is the Riverdale Lift Station odor control improvements and to be awarded to Brushy Mountain Builders Incorporated. We need a demo and safely dispose of the existing non-operational odor control system and install a new package odor control system for Riverdale lift stations, which requires civil, mechanical, and electrical work. The existing odor control system was salvaged from Eastside Wastewater Treatment Plant, is no longer functional. The odor control unit pulls foul air from the wet well, removes hydrogen sulfide, and neutralizes the negative effects on the environment, people, equipment, and the buildings. Public Service recommends approval and asks for council to award the contract to Brushy Mountains Builders in the amount of $274,000. You have a picture of the old unit, the recommendation, and a copy of the recommendation to award.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll make a motion that item 2021-240 be approved. There's a second by Councilman Jones. I'll call the roll. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. The next item is 2021-241, contract consideration to Piedmont Automation Incorporated dealing with our West Side Wastewater Treatment Plant SCADA upgrade.
Yes, sir, that's me again, I believe.
It is.
Yeah, this is the West Side Wastewater Treatment Plant SCADA upgrade to Piedmont Automation Incorporated. We need to replace outdated SCADA system, which is it's called Supervising and Data Acquisition System at the at West Side Wastewater Treatment Plant. The SCADA system allows operators to perform the following: control wastewater treatment processes locally or at remote locations, monitor, gather, and process real-time data, directly interact with devices such as the sensors, valves, motors, and more through human-machine interface. Records events into log file. Existing SCADA system is outdated and it's hard to get parts for. The scope of the project will include a new computer and software installation, program modifications, commissioning and testing of the wastewater SCADA, West Side Wastewater Treatment Plant SCADA system, investigation of the existing system, plant hardware, communication functionality, and limited demo of the old electrical equipment. Bids were open on June 2nd, 2021. We received 5 conformity bid packages, and Piedmont Automation was the lowest response bidder. The other service recommends approval and asks council to award the contract to Piedmont Automation in the amount of $230,400. You have a picture of our current SCADA system with all the wiring, so to be, being exposed. You have a recommendation from Sturgill Engineering attached and a copy of the bids. Any questions?
I have one. Looking at the bids, they do show that, have you dealt with them before?
Piedmont Automation? Yes, sir.
Okay. Why do they have 2 bids, one number 1 and one number 2? Is that just the difference in the software they're presenting to use?
It is, sir. We allowed 3 types of software. VT SCADA, Ignition, and what would be called, what we're using right now, Wonderware. But what we need to go to is a system platform where you have, for lack of a better term, a mainframe doing the control, and the computers will be technically dumb computers. You can be able to control, but you can't, for lack of a better term, upload anything. Everything's uploaded to the master. It's kind of the circle of life, sir. Okay. Sir, I think when I got started, that's the way it was, and now we're back that way.
Okay. All right, well, I just noticed they had 2 bids in.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll make the motion that item 2021-241 be approved. Is there a second? There is a second by Councilman Jones. I'll call the vote. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Aye. And Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. Next item is 2021-242. This is a contract with People Ready for our MRF material recovery facility. Terry, you're still up.
Yeah, this is my last one, sir.
All right.
It's a material recovery facility for temporary services. We budget for full-time temporary service employees at the material recovery facility. The scope of the service will authorize the city to use temporary labor service for the purpose of assisting with current sorting of recyclable materials. Quotes were received, and People Ready provided the lowest responsible responding firm of the 4 companies. These services are needed to continue processing recyclable materials from the customer base. The public server recommends approval of the contract and the appropriate city official to execute all necessary documents to award unit prices for temporary services to People Ready in the estimated amount of $120,000. I will say, like everything else, the cost of personnel has gone up. The low bid basically was $4 an hour higher than the last contract. The others were in the range of $5 to $6 higher than the last contract.
Is temporary service, I know that we just discussed the staffing challenges that we're seeing in the public and private sector. How about for a temporary service company? Are they serving you well?
They are, my guess, in order to attract people, they're paying more, sir.
Right. Any further comments or questions on this item? Hearing none, I'll make the motion that item 2021-242 be approved. Seconded by Councilman Jones. I'll call the vote. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Aye. And Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. There is an item set for our agenda that was discussed today. We have decided to in consideration of several different things, and also having a full committee, that item 2021-243, consideration of outside nonprofit agency funding, will be postponed and picked up at our next earliest convenience, maybe as early as the first part of next week if we can get everybody together. There is one public hearing we need to acknowledge, item 2021-244. It is a public hearing that has been set to, for Key Risk, a Berkeley company. It's performance-based incentives up to $1,175,540 for a project with Key Risk concerning an agreement containing benchmarks and scheduled payment for such incentives. And I guess that will appear at our next council meeting. So we'll be looking.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir. Councilman Moore and
Okay.
Chair, this is Sandy Dunbeck with High Point EDC, and we do request to go forward to public hearing for Key Risk, and company officials will be with us on Monday to present additional information regarding the project.
Okay. Do you know if they'll be in person, or are they going to be via Zoom or something?
They plan to be in person on Monday evening.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Sandy.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. I had Eric as the presenter on that, so, so we will look forward to that on Monday. Did I? Yeah, okay, I talked about 23. Is there anything else that I've forgotten or that needs to come before finance today? I don't think there is, so if there is no objection to adjourning this meeting, then I will announce that this meeting is adjourned. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.